is Alexandre Pacheco da Silva. I'm a professor here at FGV Law School. And I'm here with Professor Burkhard Schafer. He is a professor of computational legal theory, and he's from the University of Edinburgh. The first question that I have for you, Professor, is you mentioned in your bio that you one of your lines of interest is the relationship between law, computational technology, and science in general. What would be the impacts of new technology in the legal field, especially in the legal profession?
Okay, there's a whole range of things going on, from the very, very practical to the very, very theoretical. On the more practical level, there is increasingly changing expectations of the citizens that we serve as a legal profession. If you think about the past, you write a letter, you expect an answer maybe in 3 or 4 days, you would have to read it. That is not how we live our lives any longer. In all other fields, we expect instant answers to the latest tweet that we send. And as a result, I think as a profession, we have to start reflecting on what are the reasonable expectations of a society that grew up with computers, that expects instant replies to certain things, but also to what extent are we entitled to steer in the opposite direction. Only because everyone expects us to be double fast and highly efficient doesn't mean that's necessarily a good thing. So we are serving, I think, as professionals, two constituencies. We are serving our clients, obviously, but we are also serving the justice system. And what might be good for our clients, or even wanted by our clients, might not be what is necessarily best for the justice system. And that is where, for me, the role of the professions come in, the professional regulatory bodies as well, where we think very, very hard on to what extent can we use, should we use technologies to respond to the needs of our clients? To what extent do we have to be careful and measured in our response, because there are wider social interests and interests of the justice system to be preserved?
And another question that actually comes into my mind is one very common hot topic in Brazil is the impacts of new technology, specific when we are speaking about, for example, artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And one word that actually people mention a lot is substitution, or replace lawyers, or replacement of some legal professional or some legal functions. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this matter of substitution, replacement? Because people are getting a little afraid regarding that subject.
It's again interesting to see there are various predictions floating around, not all of them backed up by rigorous methodology. I've seen everything from 5% of the legal profession to 25% of the legal profession going to disappear. I think we have to be very, very careful why we think that change is going to happen and which parts of the legal profession it's going to affect. So one thing you find at the moment quite often, for instance, in the more popular press, is AI, artificial intelligence, can predict court outcomes. Therefore, we don't need judges any longer. And I find that very puzzling, personally. I can predict to you how Scotland is going to play football in its next football game. That's relatively easy. We are going to lose, unfortunately. So I can predict with great accuracy the outcome of the game, but that doesn't mean that we can replace the football team with me. Sure. The mere fact that I can predict something doesn't mean I don't have to do it any longer. So I'm always a bit puzzled by that specific line of argument. More seriously, I would say there are certain traditional roles that lawyers have performed that might not be viable in the future, certain bread and butter jobs. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. We could ask ourselves as society, was it really needed to have a relatively expensive service for that? Routine writing of wills would be an example. Routine drafting of contracts might be another. So there are lots of low value, high volume activities where I think lawyers might find it more difficult to argue that they add value. Then there are other parts of the legal profession where it will simply be very difficult to replace them with machines, maybe even impossible to replace them with machines. Quite a lot of legal work is being empathetic with your client. If you are a family lawyer, for instance, and you coach your client through a difficult divorce, what that person does not need, or not just need, is legal advice. They want a sympathetic ear. They want someone who understands their position. So there's going to be certain legal work that is difficult to replace. And then there's the more controversial part of legal work where it is possible in theory to use computers or to use technology, but there are costs which we as society may not be comfortable with. So certain works that notaries, for instance, have done in the past, yes, you can do that in an automated form, but we might still want someone who speaks authoritatively, and we want a human for that. Even though the role in theory is not that demanding, we prefer that certain decisions are taken by humans. So that is, I think, the broad spectrum. What I think we will see in the long run is a reorganization of the legal service market. We will lose certain very, very small, highly specialized law firms. We will get a new type of competitors. There will be companies which are not law firms in the traditional sense. They are hybrids of computer scientists and lawyers and maybe social scientists. And they will provide a new type of service, a service that in the past might have been done badly by law firms. So we might get competition from this new type of entity. And how the legal profession is going to respond to that, that will be very interesting to see.
This is very interesting because one of the current discussions here in Brazil is what law schools should do regarding preparing its students to this new world. Because one of the things that actually you needed to establish is how to prepare your students for the next 5, maybe the next 10 years regarding the skill that they needed to actually have. So one of the things is what law schools here in Brazil and in other countries in the world should do.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That is a important question. It's not just a question for the law schools. It's also a question for professional bodies, the entities that accredit law degrees. What are the skills and qualities that we are looking for in a lawyer? And to me, there are two totally different issues that come up here. The first one is how much technology do we need to teach our students? Should we teach them coding? I'm actually quite skeptical about that, simply because languages change so rapidly, technology changes so rapidly that I see relatively little value. Should we teach them knowledge engineering and knowledge representation? I think so, yes, absolutely. We should teach our students that they understand better what it is that they are selling. What is the information they and only they have access to? What is the added value they give to their clients? And how can technology help them to deliver this? So there are certain things we can teach that make them better in using technology, but we should also do the opposite. We should ask ourselves, what are the things that technology can't do and where you have a competitive edge? And we should train them. So I mentioned earlier on, for instance, the family lawyer who is empathetic. Do we teach at the moment empathy? I don't think so. Do we teach psychology? I don't think so. So there are lots of things we do not teach, but which will be crucial to distinguish ourselves from what technology can do. So for me, our curriculum has to adjust in two ways. On the one hand, we have to think about equipping lawyers with certain technological skills. On the other hand, we have to equip them with skills that are not replaceable by technology, and both things have to happen in parallel.
And do you have any any kind of example that actually illustrate that? For example, you mentioned that, for example, we could have like more logic oriented courses, we could have much more hands-on projects. How are you building those skills in the University of Edinburgh regarding that subject?
That's a very interesting, very relevant question. We are trying to adjust our curriculum on various levels. We are working very closely with the Law Society for Scotland to find out what we need as a minimum ability and a minimum set of skills that every lawyer should have. The client should be confident, at least I know they meet this basic threshold. That is one of the things we are exploring, and for that we will jointly with the Law Society organize from next year onward an online learning course, a type of MOOC, where students can acquire the very basic skills. For our students, we want more. They should not just have the minimum, they should excel in what they are doing. So already on the master level, we offer a course on AI and the legal profession. We've been doing this for 5 years now. It's very popular. We are going to introduce a similar course in the undergraduate curriculum. We already have law and robotics, but we will also have a dedicated course for AI in legal practice as from next year. These are not mandatory subjects, they are voluntary subjects, but those students who want to specialize in that field will have the opportunity. And in addition, and that is really, really important for me, we should not just take over here and think that we know best. I was trained in the 1990s and some of my knowledge is still from that time. I think some of our students actually know better what it is to work with technology, what it is to use WhatsApp on a day-to-day basis. So I think for us it's really, really important to also encourage student-led initiatives in that. So since last year we have in Edinburgh a student-led society for law and technology. Our students thought that they want to learn more, and they now are teaming up with informatics students. They exchange knowledge, they train them on data protection, and they in turn learn a little bit about Python. I think it's very important to facilitate that type of activity. We have hackathons that we organize on occasions for them, where we team up informatics students with law students and business studies students and give them a real-life task, a data set to work with. It also trains them in teamwork and in interdisciplinary teamwork, which I think is difficult to do in ordinary teaching and ordinary law curriculum. And the hope is that we will address both issues, that on the one hand, we give our students enough understanding of technology to use it confidently and competently, to give them an understanding what it is as lawyers that we sell, what our knowledge advantage is, our business proposition, and how technology can help us to be better in delivering that service, but also an understanding of what are the skills that we need to allow them to develop and to train them that cannot be taken over by technology. There are certain skills, communication skills, empathy, intuitive understanding, creativity, lots of things that technology struggles with, but we humans excel at. At the moment we don't teach these things, I think we should, in addition to training them in technology, making them better in the non-technological things, and then together with the students come up with something that makes their profession future-proof and prepares them for whatever comes their way.
So I think that's it. Thank you very much, Professor, for the interview.
Thank you.